We have to talk about some of the things that happened in NBA recently.
Have to.
Well, one of the things is the Cavaliers, they have started 3-0 with James Harden
Pretty fun.
being added onto the team. Now,
like
two
my
of the
video?
wins, you might not feel like they're that impressive against the Kings and the Wizards, but the one win against the Nuggets was very impressive. They had a slow start then in the fourth quarter. They really kicked up, and James Harden, I think, had 13 or 14 points in that fourth quarter. And Donovan Mitchell finished with over 30.
Donovan's been so consistent all year.
Yeah, he's been amazing. And since December 29th, Cleveland is number one in wins. They have a top 6 offensive rating.
December what?
December 29th.
Very specific, but I like it.
Yeah, since the new year, essentially. They have been the best team in the NBA, record-wise. They are top 6 in offensive rating and defensive rating. I think the Cavaliers are finding their footing. They started the season off as one of the most disappointing teams, and for good reason. They weren't playing good basketball. They weren't playing defense. They weren't hitting shots. But now they have basically cut their losses with Darius Garland, who's still nursing a toe injury, and his timetable to return with the Clippers is in question. With Lonzo Ball, they cut their losses. Now I look at the Cavaliers team that has been without Dean Wade, Evan Mobley, and Max Strus since Harden has been there. They have won 3 games in a row. And I think Harden lifts their ceiling up exponentially. The offensive upgrade is without question there because he's just a better floor general and he has better IQ than Garland. But defensively, he makes a much bigger impact because when you're 6'5" and 220 pounds versus somebody that's 6 foot 190, you can guard more positions. Kenny Atkinson loves to use these 3-guard lineups where he keeps Schroeder, Keon, and Harden on the floor, and sometimes you sub in Mitchell into that lineup. And with Garland, that's not a viable defensive lineup because he's so small. But with Harden, he can size up and guard forward, sometimes even stretch into the 4 position. He can do that. He had 2 crucial defensive stops against Jokic, helping in the post and getting a strip and having a steal in transition where he went out and got a layup. So I think Harden not only raises their floor on offense, but on defense. He's improved them mightily on both ends. And Cleveland, if they're healthy, they can make the NBA Finals. I think they're up there with any Eastern Conference team, especially when you think about what they're going to get back. They're going to get back Mobley, Strus, and Dean Wade. It's going to make them so much better. And I think the Cavaliers team that we expected come into the season with different personnel now, they are as much of a contender as anybody in the East.
It's been fun to watch this Cavaliers team with James Harden on the court. And it's funny because when you think about James Harden, obviously defense never comes to mind. And it's no shade to him. It's because his offense is all-time great. The longevity that he's shown has been pretty under the radar as well because he is towards the later part of his career and he just continues to be one of the most efficient playmakers in the game. But you're not too far off when you talk about defense whatsoever. Garland is undersized. He gives effort, but the undersized guard is unfortunately in its way kind of being phased out, unfortunately, unless you're bringing otherworldly offense, which some players do bring. For example, a Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, who's not the tallest, even though he's listed as 6'4" allegedly.
Now he's 6'1". He just has 7-foot wingspan.
Okay,
so he covers more ground than your average.
Who am I
small
thinking
player.
that we just spoke about that was 6'4"? That I can't think of
Keontae
George. That's who it was. But yeah, Donovan Mitchell is undersized, but he's just an elite scorer of the basketball. If you're not one of those, and now you're also becoming a liability on the defensive side of the ball, it's hard to be a focal point in an offense, and it's hard to be consistently on the court where you're being a plus to your team. James Harden just provides a little bit more size, and you're right. He is a better playmaker. He's a better scorer. He's more available. It made sense why the Cavaliers want to do this because you traded 5 first-round picks for Donovan Mitchell. You wanted to ensure that you were going to maximize your window while you had him on your team. When Mobley comes back, I'm really excited to see what this defense looks like. Jared Allen's been playing excellent basketball. That's on me for not realizing that sooner that James Harden and Jared Allen was going to be a movie. That should have just been obvious. Look at what happened with him and Zubac. Yeah. But I got to give credit to Allen. He's been playing great basketball with Harden as well. But this offense is starting to hit its stride. The defense, when Mobley comes back, I can only assume that starts to figure things out. I think who also benefits in their offensive game, obviously, is Evan Mobley. What is that pick and roll going to look like? How much easier looks is Evan Mobley going to have near the basket as well? So this offense can be fun. I don't hate your take at all in terms of coming out of the East. I respect the Knicks a lot, obviously, so I would favor the Knicks. I think that when the two have matched up, the Knicks have played a good brand of basketball. Them acquiring Jeremy Shohan, I'm not sure if that moves the needle for me so much so, especially who the player Jeremy has been at this point in his career. We all expected him to be a little bit better. He was kind of that player that everybody was just like, underrated. This guy's great. He can do a little bit of everything. Never really panned out to be that, but I'm interested to see how he looks with the Knicks. But to put a bow on it, the Cavaliers have been playing strong basketball in these 3 games, and I think it starts with Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell has been their best player all season long, but with Harden, his game can only be a little bit easier because of how much spacing he provides.
I'll say I was rude. And when we were in San Fran, San Diego gets smoked out.
Well, you were ignorant. That's what you were.
I think I was rude.
Yes.
Ignorant TBD. I mean, I don't think they could lose. Anyone
Smoked
could lose.
out was
You said
strong.
they'd more likely to lose in the first round.
Then get to the conference finals.
Yeah, that's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it still could easily be true. They could still not get to the conference finals. You know what I mean?
Is it a strong take? Yes. Is it far-fetched?
I think
It's far-fetched.
What they are now is you have to make your pick on what they do in the second round. Because right now, as it stands, they have a strong chance, very strong, to be top 4 in the East. They could finish as high as probably the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. So that means they'll match up with one of those bottom 4 teams, right? Whether that's going to be Toronto, Philly, one of the playing teams, Magic, Hornets, whoever it might end up being. It really depends what you think they're going to do in that second round. Because I think they've shown, especially the last month or so, they have the talent and should be able to get past the first round. It's really, what does James Harden do that changes this team from what Darius Garland does? I think defensively, although it's funny we're talking about James Harden defense, I think that just shows more about Darius Garland, his deficiencies, just because of his size, and it's easy to, to hunt him, especially when you have bigger wings and just bigs in general, or bigger guards that can go and go downhill and attack him. But he is just, on a basis, he's bigger, he's stronger, he's longer than Darius Garland. So sure, he's an upgrade defensively. Offensively, I do think he's an upgrade just because Harden has shown to be a floor raiser. It's different than what Garland gives you, right? When it comes to just how he fits with Donovan Mitchell. Both of them are guys that are going to want the ball in their hands, as well as Garland, even though I think Garland is going to do a bit more just off ball than James Harden does, just stylistically. But then beyond that, it really comes down to the other guys. Like, can the role players stay healthy? They haven't been able to stay healthy recently, as
very true.
On top of the, their star players. And then Evan Mobley. Mobley has had that quote-unquote breakout season, more just progressing last year. But in the playoffs, we saw he wasn't the same version of himself. So there's still, to me, a lot of questions that revolve around this Cavaliers team. But, Joel, you're good at what you do. When you say they could come out of the Eastern Conference, I can sit here and argue all I want about how much I don't trust them and all the questions that they have. But I think you can make the argument for basically every team in the East, right? We talked about this on the last basketball episode, but do you really trust Detroit? Who's their number 2? Do you trust Boston with Tatum maybe or maybe not coming back? Do you trust New York and their defensive deficiencies? And beyond that, I think it's a bit of a dark horse.
I get the point you're making. It's
just
funny.
Like, I understand what you're coming from, because the argument for you is X, Y, and Z. All these teams have questions. The Cavs have questions too, but everyone has questions, So I get where you're coming from. I definitely get it. And again, you're good at what you do. You can make that argument, and I can't really argue against it.
I love where you're coming from, because he's essentially laying out to you, are the Cavs coming out of the East? Yes or no? That's what he's saying. You're saying they could.
Sure, they could.
They could.
The 4 teams could probably
I think
come
Philly
out.
could.
5 teams,
right?
Sure,
Philly
5.
could.
Well, I think the fact that we went from saying that the Cavaliers would lose
good
to a Tatumless Celtics to you thinking
they still could lose.
To you,
let's get clear.
No,
they
can't.
still
They
could lose
to a Tatumless.
The Cavaliers, if they're healthy, no way, shape, or form would lose to a Tatumless Celtics team in a playoff.
So that's a 5-game series, is what you're telling me.
Yeah,
okay.
They would smoke.
What are you
them.
What have you
saying?
seen this year from Boston that would make you think that?
If they get Evan Mobley back, if they're fully healthy, the Cavaliers would easily win that series.
Okay,
I'm not even questioning
interesting, because Jaylen Brown himself posted this. You saw this?
Yeah, they're basically basically the same.
Last year, they are 39-16. This year, they are 35-19. They were the 2nd seed last year. They're the 2nd seed this year.
Up to the All-Star break.
Correct, at the All-Star break. They were the 4th seed. They're the 4th in offensive rating going to All-Star break. They're 2nd in offensive rating. They were 5th in defensive rating. They're 9th in defensive rating. Slight fall off. Tatum's defense obviously matters. 3rd in net rating, third in net rating.
Is that supposed to tell me
enough.
that the
All
Celtics
it's
this year are
saying
better
that-
than last year?
That's not at all what's saying. They're still an amazing team.
Yes, they're still an
They would
amazing
get
team.
washed in 5.
Washed is
The
nuts.
Celtics have played amazing basketball in the regular season. With as many of
The Celtics are a regular season team now?
the amount of players they have on the roster now, most of them have not played in the playoffs. Can Jordan Walsh continue to keep up his 3-point shooting and be consistent in the playoffs?
Okay.
Can
So
Payne
I'm
Pritchard?
relying on Harden
you're
and
literally-
Mobley and
yeah,
Jared
you're-
Allen.
What do you mean?
You're getting
James
worst case
Harden is
scenario.
more reliable than what the fuck than Jordan Walsh?
Of course,
right.
yes.
What
But
are you-
Jordan Walsh.
what are you
We have-
arguing?
You have
No,
Derek
no.
White, you have Jalen Brown before you get to Payne Pritchard, before you get to fucking Jordan Walsh.
But we're saying,
My God,
you said
Joel.
number one with the Tatumless Celtics team. I think that's wrong. You literally admitted just now you could see the Cavaliers making the finals.
No, I said your argument is smart
No,
because
that's
I
all
think
he's
there's
saying,
4 to 5
correct.
So
teams
you
that
think
should
the
come.
so you think
No,
the
are they
Cavaliers
gonna come out or not?
So
I don't
you,
give a fuck
are
if
you
they could come out. Are they gonna come
do you
out?
think the Cavaliers are going to get smoked in the first round?
Smoke? No, I think there'll be a
Do you
second
think
round
they're
exit.
losing? Okay,
I think there'll be a
so
second round
who?
exit.
So who?
I
You
think any of the teams I
you think
mentioned.
any of the teams in the Pistons and the Knicks and
Pistons,
the
Knicks,
Celtics?
Boston.
The Pistons
Sixers
are
could beat them.
Sure.
not
Sixers
far-fetched.
get past
no.
the first round though.
The Detroit Pistons. They in the regular season have been amazing because they are an elite level defense. Their offensive woes in the playoffs are a serious question mark, especially the spacing around Cade Cunningham. If you double and trap Cade for a series, who else on the Pistons do you trust with the ball in their hands to consistently put pressure on the defense? That is a real question mark that they're going to have. The Knicks, I think their defensive woes
He's doing what I
have.
said.
I think
know. No, that's exactly what his argument was, though.
their defensive. Well, I don't care about what his argument was. At the end of the day, right now this is February 12th. This February 12th. I'm not gonna make my Eastern Conference prediction right now.
You could.
I've already done it with the West because I feel very confident in a healthy Denver Nuggets
But
team.
that's nuts to say, too, because OKC is not healthy either.
But my entire argument though, and this is where you're trying to make me argue something against what I believe, because I still believe in the Knicks. I still believe in my Knicks a lot. And we got Mohamed Diawara, who's been playing amazing basketball. Jeremy Sohan just got added. Jose Alvarado just got added. He
Elite
played
add.
amazing 20 points off the bench against Philly. We smoked Philly. So I'm not giving up on my Knicks, but to just completely ignore that Cleveland is within the same tier, I thought the other day from you was stupid. And that's what you did the other day.
Before they played a single game with one another, that's
I
stupid.
still have,
What did
I
you
still
think it
have
was gonna
real
be?
question
That's my
marks
honest
about
question.
Cleveland.
James Harden, he has literally floor raised the Clippers the last couple of seasons he's been there. He's an all-star this year. What did you think he was going to go to Cleveland and be worse and make the team worse?
No, not at all.
So if anything, like, are you surprised by how they're playing?
First of all, it's been 3 games, and 2 of the games,
And
like
they
you
beat
mentioned, was
Denver.
the Wizards and the Kings. They beat
They
Denver.
beat Denver.
Absolutely. I'm not taking a 3-game sample and being like, I'm throwing everything out the window and be like, no, the Cavs should be the favorite to come out the East. I just like you're breaking down all these question marks for these teams. You have the same question marks about Cleveland
The Cavaliers' question marks
Our health.
are all durability related.
and
that's
performance
fair.
in the playoffs.
Performance,
That's also
Donovan
fair.
Mitchell.
Outside
but
of Mitchell,
the
it's
performance,
outside of Mitchell.
health and
the
30%
performance in the
Agreed. I
playoffs
agree
for
with
the
that, John.
Cavaliers, because they have lost in back-to-back seasons in the second round. Most of their playoff performances where they lay duds is in byproduct of the injuries they've had. Donovan Mitchell against the Pacers,
Which is fair to ask, though.
having an ankle injury. Evan Mobley having an ankle injury.
this is fair for him to
DeAndre
question.
Hunter in the
I
playoffs
agree with
was
him.
injured.
It's
Darius
fair
Garland
to argue
was injured in the
that
second
health
round.
matters when you think about the
but
Cavaliers.
This is the thing with
No?
with the Pistons, my question mark becomes about their offense and the shooting. It's a basketball related
But
thing.
defense transfers to the postseason.
Yes, it does, but offense matters a lot. And
But
you
their
have
offense
to,
is
you have
already
to be able
mid
to
still,
score.
and they still are the best team in the East.
That can be exacerbated in the playoffs when you have with the spacing provided with Cade. If they're going to aggressively trap Cade more in the playoffs than they are in the regular season. With the Cavaliers, most of their question marks are durability related, because if they're healthy, I don't question Donovan Mitchell's performance. James Harden, yeah, he'll give you bad games in the playoffs. He'll also give you great games.
He will.
He averaged 20 points
It's
and
just
9
how
assists.
what do you get?
in
Do you get
Denver.
5 great
And
games?
also
Do you get 2
this-
good great
And
games?
also, this is not, and this is where I need to shut this down right now. How far the Cavaliers go is really not James Harden reliant. James Harden has a
agree.
role in it, but James Harden came to Cleveland to do exactly that.
the
To
third most
play a
scoring player.
role, to initiate, to make sound decisions offensively. So far through 3 games, they have a 126.7 offensive rating when he's on the floor. That's what he was brought there to do. Donovan Mitchell is the leading scorer of this team. So a lot of how far Cleveland goes is how far Donovan Mitchell takes them. Evan Mobley is a big part of that. And then you get into James Harden. I think that Mobley and Donovan Mitchell are the two keys. I'm not asking 36, 37-year-old James Harden to come in here and say, you're the guy, we're riding on you. So as long as he initiates and makes sound decisions throughout a series, even if he's not shooting the best, he can make a positive impact. And I think that he will do that. So I have not seen anything from James Harden over the last couple of seasons to where he's going to be trash in the playoffs for a series.
I think the complete opposite is true. If James Harden isn't shooting well and his shot isn't going in, that's when we see him deteriorate and he turns the ball over and he makes poor decisions and he lacks defensively even more than he can. When Harden's shot isn't going and offensively he's not right, his whole game falls apart.
I disagree.
Maybe that's okay because he's the 3 now instead of a 2
versus Celtics.
No, in Philly we saw it constantly.
In Philly, correct.
James Harden's game doesn't deteriorate with that. When he's not making shots, of course, it's going to be evident that he's not making shots. He's still making sound decisions with the basketball. And
the Philly series,
the Philly
some years
series,
ago, if you want to say it's because he's number 3 now, maybe it won't happen. Fine, sure. But to say if his shot's not falling, he's still going to do all this other stuff. When I see throughout his history in the playoffs, that's not the case.
In the Philly series, they mostly lost. I mean, they blew a lead in Game 6. Game 7 was a complete washing. But to even get to that point, James Harden had to have 2 outlandish performances with Joel Embiid not playing for them to even get 2 wins. Yeah. He was the sole reason they got 2 wins. So if you want to put a microscope,
no, I know this.
Okay,
Harden gives you some high highs.
I was going to say we can't praise him for having 2 good games, and then when we need you to have one more good one, you couldn't.
Well, I can praise him for that as well. I can praise him for his good games, and I could also criticize him for his bad ones. Okay. And he does deserve praise for being the sole reason they won 2 games in that series. That series went to 7. They won one other game.
I'm with you though.
They won 2 games because of him in that series.
Yeah, he hoops.
And is it crazy to ask from Joel Embiid, the MVP, to close it out after Harden took you that far? I mean, yeah, it's very reasonable to ask of Joel Embiid.
My argument is not. I think the argument is getting lost here. My argument is not, is James Harden going to give you 7 good playoff games? I know James Harden's going to have some games in the playoffs where he shows up and he has some games when he doesn't. My argument is when he has those games he doesn't, I don't think he does anything else well. I think his shit falls apart for him.
I think that's completely false because I've watched every single James Harden game in his career. Most of what he provides is, of course, offensive value. That's what he provides. So if he's not making the shots, of course, it's going to take a hindrance, but he is still making sound decisions with the basketball, even when the shot is not falling. So I disagree with that. He is still reading where to go with the basketball and making right reads and right passes, even if his shot is not falling. So I disagree with that. The difference between James Harden now and James Harden in Philly, and this is why I'm excited about Cleveland, because this has become a James Harden-centric thing where in all, he just has to be more reliable than Garland, which I think he will be, because not having another reliable ball handler, which they weren't going to have if Garland was on this team still, was really was going to hold them back. But James Harden, this is the most complete roster. This is his best chance of going to the finals since the Nets. The Cavaliers roster is really fucking good. And that's what more so I'm trying to get you to realize. Something that is made into a James Harden-centric thing. It's really about you realizing the Cavaliers are really freaking good.
I think that's
there's a reason why they were the number 1 seed last year. They started slow this year, but the silver linings of that number 1 seed have showed up with this team as of recently. When you have James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Tyson, and Sam Merrill, who are both top 5 in 3-point percentage this season. Evan Mobley, a top 5 defender in basketball. Jared Allen playing at an all-star level. They have 4 all-star level players. And then Dennis Schroeder, Keon Ellis, Max Strus, Dean Wade, who's one of the more I said Jalen Tyson, but thank you for that. Dean Wade, who's one of the more versatile defenders, who's 6'10", he can guard up, he can guard down as well. They legitimately have 10 really good, that you feel comfortable about, rotational playoff players. This isn't a team that lacks depth and is just top heavy. No, this is a complete all-around team that also has a great head coach. So that is where my confidence in Cleveland comes from, because they, from a basketball perspective, they have very little flaws. They do.
You tell me, John.
A microcosm, and then John, I will shut up happily. Microcosm of James Harden over these last few years in the playoffs. The Dallas series, while he's on the Clippers, so this is recent. This is 2 years ago. He goes 12 for 17, 71% from the field, has 33 points, 2 turnovers, 7 assists. Objectively amazing game. This is on the road to tie the series at 2-2. You go back home, they get absolutely smoked. He goes 2 for 12 from the field, 4 turnovers. I get what he's saying.
But what? No.
The point is,
he has great games and bad games.
Don't know what version of him you're gonna get.
And I'm not even trying to make this a Harden thing.
I know that Harden is going to play well for 50% of the series.
Turn into one.
I know Harden is going to play well for 50% of the series.
The big reason why everybody is excited about the Cavaliers, and rightfully so, let's not minimize it, is because of James Harden.
Of course.
Because he's an all-timer.
But James Harden...
So this is automatically going to turn into a James Harden conversation, and it automatically is going to revert back to what he's shown us to be in the playoffs, which is unfortunately for him, an untrustworthy player.
It's a solid player. There are players that if we nitpick other players in the playoffs, we will find bad closeout games. We will find bad home games. We will find all of that stuff.
Agreed.
We will. If you look at the Clippers when they faced Denver in the last playoffs, the offensive rating with Harden on the floor was bigger than with Kawhi, because if you watch that series, Kawhi had the one blow up game, but for the most part,
pretty mid.
You were left wondering, why doesn't Harden have the ball more? Because the offense is flowing better with him.
I agree
because
with you.
The ball got stuck with Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
So Harden will have hot and he'll have cold games. Yeah. At the most part, I know that he's going to make the right decisions. He's going to go to the right places with the basketball. At that point, it's a matter of him making and missing shots. But with the amount of spacing that he has on the Cavaliers right now, where they have so many amazing three-point shooters, they have a legit scorer in Donovan Mitchell who can get his bucket off in any spot and draw defenses to him. They have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen who are vertical threats.
For sure.
Like, James Harden's job now, objectively, has become easier than with the Clippers when they didn't have much spacing.
Without a doubt.
Like, now you're going from the spacing of the Clippers with Derrick Jones Jr. and then Chris Dunn starting because he needs to play defense, to Sam Merrill and Jalen Tyson and Donovan Mitchell.
They got knocked down.
It is a big difference. Yeah. So for me, I think that Harden, at the very least, is going to give you 20 points and 8 to 9 assists per game in the playoffs. I think there'll be one series where he's amazing. You'll have some down games, cool, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. But I think the real reason why Cleveland can go far is because they have an amazing team. And Harden, of course, helps that out.
Yeah, and they have the same blueprint that last year generated 64 wins. And the reason things fell off the tracks was because of injuries. Like we talked about earlier in the segment, the start to this year was mainly a byproduct of guys coming back like Darius Garland not being in the lineup to start the season, then working his way back. And then in this trade where you're swapping a player that's 10 years older than one of your franchise cornerstones, the crux of that to me, while I agree with what you guys laid out before, is that Harden is on the floor. That is the number one thing for a team that is trying to compete for a championship. And I agree with what you said before. This is the most wide open East we have seen in quite some time with the injuries. And so that catapults James Harden to a chance, the best chance he's had realistically since that 2021 Nets team. And I look at this Cavalier lineup and I love a lot of what the pieces are around him. You have the shooting. Jalen Tyson making 47% of his threes off the catch this year. Now he plays with a guard who every single night's going to be that high level to elite playmaker. And even in Harden's poor moments, a lot of the time we've seen it in Philly specifically, that was magnified because Embiid was not on the floor. He's still the second creator on this team. That's what his role will be.
Sure. But
last year in that Clippers series, like you highlighted, he was more consistent than Kawhi. And that was one of his better playoff series. He played well. He showed a lot in the mid-range area against a Nugget team that in the pick and roll was giving that. And he was kind of taking advantage of that for the better part of that series. So when I look at the Eastern Conference, the Pistons are the best team right now, but they are not invincible by any stretch. They have deficiencies. They did not necessarily address them at the deadline. The Cavaliers said, you know what? This is not working. A lot of people like me saw him make that trade, and I said, I don't see the vision because I like having my 25-year-old guard for the long term. The Cavaliers looked at this differently. They said by getting James Harden, we can go to the finals this year. And that, to me, has kind of been it's only supported by the supporting cast that they have. The fact that Evan Mobley comes back after the All-Star break, and Jared Allen's going to be a better version of himself with Harden.
I agree.
So I'm excited to see how the front court hopefully plays better and shows up in the postseason, because they really haven't always showed up. Like I said before, it's been 70% injuries and 30% this team is not stepping up. It's a cliche, somewhat casual thing to say, but it's the truth. This Cavalier team in big moments when they've had to rely on Evan Mobley and they've had to count on Jared Allen to be better, they have sunk. And they've been outplayed by guys like Mitchell Robinson who have taken over games versus them when they shouldn't be. So I'm excited to see how this Cavalier team builds off this when you get Mobley back, but also you made a great point. It's a 9 to 10 man rotation that you can trust these guys. Keon Ellis is only playing 20 minutes per game, but I think he's going to be even better when you kind of get him into the flow and you get him acclimated. He's building chemistry with these guys. So right now, like the Eastern Conference, I agree with you, Joel. This is the second best team to me. Boston can, if injuries are always going to play a role with every team, I could see the Cavaliers dealing with some injuries, and it's not that much different of an outcome than last year. But when you look at the top four of the Eastern Conference, to me, I give them a very real chance to make it to the finals this year.
The 9-10 team, the 9-10 player team,
Rotation.
It's nice in theory. Because reality, come playoff time, the lineup shrink. That's natural.
Yeah.
But it's always great to have depth, especially when you're the Cavaliers.
When you
So
have a lot
that's
of injuries,
definitely
it's
needed.
part of it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm
I agree
taking
with
that into account, though. I mean, I've seen Dennis Schroeder play well in the playoffs. I think
I love Dennis Schroeder.
he's a playoff rotation player.
100%.
I think Dean Wade is a playoff rotation player. Max Strus, I think, is a playoff rotation player.
Shown
So
it.
they're not 10.
He killed y'all.
They're not 10 theoretical players in which I'm like, I have to think and project and see them in the playoffs.
Fair.
Like most of Boston's bench. It's
Oh, wow.
It's players I know have been
was
on that
necessary.
stage and that they've played well in that stage. With Boston, you have the top guys, but a lot of those younger players, they really haven't had meaningful minutes in the postseason.
Well, you're asking them not to do much. Like Hugo and Kada and Walsh, like they're more defensive stoppers, gritty, rebounding. You're not asking them to do really anything at all offensively except maybe catch and shoot, if that.
I mean, Joe Harris wasn't asked to do much offensively. He missed all his threes.
I was going to say
So,
Cason Wallace is one
that
that
can
comes to
happen.
mind too.
That can happen.
Cason Wallace went into that series and he was great defensively, couldn't hit a jumper to save his life.
So sometimes that matters. And I'm not saying the Celtics bench is going to play poorly in the playoffs, but it's more so we have to see them do that, because there's plenty of times where you kind of just chalk up that a guy's going to play well in the playoffs because all you got to do is hit open shots. They don't hit open shots. So the playoffs are a different animal. It's volatile. It's a low sample size. And that's what it is. It's a make or miss league. But I think Cleveland, like, they have 10 real dudes who I've seen in the postseason. They've played well. So that's the difference. Or